Welcome to Music from Humans, where we explore the artistry and stories behind incredible music. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome composer Yangfan Xu, a truly imaginative voice in contemporary music. Born in Langzhou, China, and now based in the US, Yangfan brings a rich multicultural perspective to her compositions, blending her Chinese heritage and diverse global influences from her studies and experiences into a contemporary classical style. Her music captivates audiences with its storytelling depth, emotional vibrancy, and surreal imagination. Yangfan is celebrated for her works performed by world-renowned ensembles, from the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra to the New Juilliard Ensemble. Among her many accolades, she's won the 2023 Boston New Music Initiative Commission Competition and the New Juilliard Ensemble Composition Competition. In this episode, we ask, how does storytelling transform diverse influences into compelling concert music? We'll explore three of her captivating compositions: fantastic creatures of the mountains and seas, inspired by Chinese folklore and infused with her own original story; Jungle Sway, a vivid and rhythmic journey through dreamscape; and Turn Me into Ocean, an evocative work exploring surrealism and transformation enhanced with multimedia collaboration. Yanfan's passion for storytelling and her inventive approach to composition makes her music an immersive experience. Join us as we explore her creative processes, inspirations, and future projects on Music from Humans. Well, hi, Yangfan. It's so good to see you again. I'm glad you could come on to Music from Humans.
Me too. I'm so glad to be here for the show, and I'm really excited to talk to you, my old friend, and catch up a little bit.
Yeah, we first met this summer at the Aspen Composers Convention. We were both presenting some talks, and that's actually where I first heard some of your music and really liked it a lot, and have since then been listening to a lot more of it. We actually have several things in common with our music. One of those being that we both use story in our music, maybe slightly in different ways, but that we both find story very useful, and that we both have some interesting influences in from the world music scene. And I guess maybe the most important one is that we're both a little crazy about cats.
Exactly. You might see my cats running around in the background later. So, yes, storytelling is something I really strive to achieve in my music, whether it's programmed or not. I always believe that storytelling is something really important that connects me with my audiences. Um, and it's just a really great inspiration for me and for my creative process.
Well, one of the things that I found so impressive, you wrote a piece about the fantastical creatures, which is a story that you actually made up, but it references a historical Chinese story. What I thought was so cool, and I found that many of your pieces have this aspect, you've written your own stories or your own poems to sort of generate your music forward.
Yes. So I am very obsessed with writing original stories. I think I started to have this writing hobby since I was a kid. Um, so yeah, my original stories, my dreams, my fantasies have been a great influence and inspiration for my music composing. The piece you talked about, titled "Fantastic Creatures of the Mountains and Seas," is based on this Chinese classics, Fantastic Creatures. But I wrote this original story. I created a original role, which is a ancient hunter with green
The
hair,
hunter
natural
was
green
around
hair.
17 years of age. Her name was Unknown. There wasn't such a thing as names in ancient times. Unknown had long, natural green hair. Its greenness shone like a shamrock.
and she's kind of this very strong feminine figure, who's very brave and adventurous. Um, so I do see sometimes I see the characters in my story part of my own personality or identities, just to make the stories more relatable. And while I'm writing the music, I can feel more connected and emotionally inspired um, while I'm composing the music.
Well, let's talk a bit more about this piece because I thought this piece was fantastic, and the possibilities for it are quite large in my mind because this piece has a narrator, so a story, right, teller, much like Peter and the Wolf,
Mhm.
but you have all these creatures that you created in it. Um, so this work, not necessarily written for, say, children, could have an application being a, say, Chinese New Year concert piece or something like that, where you've got, maybe bringing in some younger members of the Orange who could really enjoy some of these fantastical creatures that you've made up. Plus, you have a strong feminine hero character that is good to follow and exciting, and it has that Peter and the Wolf quality to it because of the narration story, but it's a whole new modern story. And then, of course, this wonderful music that supports it all and carries it and sort of puts you in this world that you created. But I'm curious about your process of composing it and how you decided to make the choices that you made for this piece.
So I wrote the piece for chamber orchestra and narrator, um, which was the first time I tried to use spoken words in my music. Um, I was thinking this was the most direct and a kind of very innocent way to express my musical thoughts and my fantasy um, to my audiences. And this work was a commission by the New Julia Ensemble. It was premiered at Lincoln Center, so I was really envisioning I was going to have this very large crowd of audiences who are music lovers, but who might not be very, very familiar with the Chinese story and the culture. So culture, history are always playing a very big role in my music, in my creative process, just in general. And I think it's my artistic responsibility or integrity um, to communicate and to educate uh, and to get to know, to understand each other with my audiences. Um, so I started the piece thinking, having that in mind, I would love this piece to be a bridge that connects different cultures and connects me with my audiences. I started writing the narration text first, so sketching down the story, the more I wrote, the more I feel like the story has a natural, organic sense that just fits perfectly for spoken words instead of a program notes. So when I was writing the story, I was actually envisioning it to be the program notes. The more I wrote it, the more I get attached to it emotionally, and I feel like this could be a great performance if I bring this program notes on stage.
You know, some of the creatures that you describe are meet the title. They're very fantastical. And then on top of that, you have the music that you scored underneath it seems to really bring out certain elements of each character. I think one of the things you were describing to us at the conference was the different motifs with each character that you created.
Yes. So text painting is something I tried to do in this piece. I had a lot of fun playing with the words. For example, there's one of the creatures who has wings of a bird, but the body of a horse. So, and I was trying to figure out what fits perfect, what can musically describe this creature. So, I used a bassoon sound to represent the horse, and then the very high above piccolo sound representing the winds. Um, so things like that. I did a lot of orchestration and I played a lot with texture and timbre in this piece um, to be as vivid as possible. And also these fantastic creatures, I try to be as bizarre as possible because they're not something we would encounter in real life.
Yeah, I certainly one of the thoughts that I had, this could get staged with people even coming out in costumes that were made like some of these creatures, or even with a little film type thing because of how
Mhm.
strong the visual elements and story are, and how I think people get really wrapped up into it in this work.
Great idea. That's so much fun.
I think it would be fun, particularly this piece, but several others, is the broad reach that some of these pieces can have, really without sacrificing any modern concert sounds or styles, because you can pull in sections from everywhere and mash it up into something new.
Mhm.
And I feel that a lot of your work does that, and does it in a way to where you're sort of creating this new sound and feel, yet referencing so many different areas that you can find a broader scope of people wanting to hear all of these things. At least this is my interpretation, so I'd love to hear from you about how true of that, how much you think about those type of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always say it's part of my identity that I'm a global artist, a global citizen, and a multiculturalist. So my music definitely represents different culture. I'm originally from China, but I moved to the States when I was 18 years old. And then I started to get exposed to all kinds of music. Um, for example, I took a African music class during my time at Juilliard, and I took some music and Turkey class. Um, so in my education background, I was very lucky that I got to know all these awesome musicians in my life who introduced me to music from all over the places. And I really appreciate it, and I think it's part of my musical language. It's a global language, um, to incorporate all these different cultures and movements and styles in my music. I can give a good example. I just thought about, my piece titled "Jungle Sway," which is also based on a original story, or it was actually a real dream I had. Um and it started with this very, African drumming rhythm, polyrhythm. So in the beginning of the story, I was roaming around the jungle and I encountered some elephants. Um, and then there was a huge jungle fire. So the elephants were kind of leading me to escape from the jungle fire. In the middle section, I have this harp solo because the middle section is about after the jungle fire, after all the running around. I was laying down with the elephants and watching the stars in the sky. So it was a really peaceful moment uh, in which I have the solo harp playing some very pentatonic, but also chromatic harmonic passages. And then in the very end, I decided to write in minimalist style. Because I listen to all kinds of music. I listen to hip hop, lo-fi hip hop, especially a lot. So when I was writing this last section, I was really thinking about this modern lo-fi culture and minimalist composition. Um, and in the story, it really emphasizes the story as well. This in the story, while I was laying down chilling with the elephants, there was a cyberpunk train arrived right next to me with some cyber policemen came out of the train and they kidnapped me. And by the end of the dream, I was on the train and we were going to who knows where. Um, I just felt like the minimalist music characteristics really fits that mysterious and futuristic sound I was going for, I was looking for. Yeah, so there were a bunch of different things happening. I have the African music influence, I have the East Asia pentatonic scale, I have the traditional classical contemporary music, modern music. Um, in my educational background, I got most exposed to. And then by the end, I have this minimalist section. So I think this is a really, really good representation of how my music language is. It's really a fusion of a lot of different things.
Yeah, I feel it's sort of a fortunate thing that most of the dogma of how music is supposed to be is gone, and the world is the oyster where you can pull from as many sources as you see fit to create something new. Uh,
Mhm.
I've listened to that piece. I enjoyed that one as well, and was wondering if you went with the minimalism is because of different trains, being a classic minimalist piece. Um,
Yeah, but it's a cyberpunk dream.
yeah, well, it's everybody's got to have their own angle on it, but yeah, I
Yeah.
and plus I like the nature of this story of this piece just maintains its dreamlike quality where very surreal, weird things happen from stage to stage and sort of carries you through 3 different sections of music because you didn't adjust your story to make more sense necessarily, you know?
Yeah, thank you so much. I love the word surreal. I think that describes my music very, very well. In a lot of things I'm trying to do musically and compositionally.
You've already created quite a lot of different works, many orchestral works and a lot of solo works. You've mentioned that your personal style is sort of bringing together a diverse collection of world um, musics and concert music. Is there a particular style within that that you tend to use more than others?
Hmm. Um, Very good question. So I've been thinking about it a lot. And I've been listening very carefully about other people's comments regarding my music because I personally I would love to learn more about my own music. I'm not the kind of composer who think a lot about what to categorize my own music and my style. Um, I'm more of the kind I just follow my intuition and write what I feel like to. And the influences, the voices, the languages are already there. I'm not using any tools. I'm just writing unconsciously um, with all these toolbox I had. I'm these kind of music styles I've been exposed to. So I would define if I have to choose a word, I would define, I think, my music as neoclassical, surreal, and multicultural. I think these three words are the best to describe my music style. And also, my music is often perceived by other people by being very energetic, compassionate, and bizarre. That's the word I often get. Um, and and then I started to put that in my expression marks, bizarre, for a lot of sections of my music when I'm feeling like the character is coming out. Um, so yeah, um, I said my music is close to a neoclassical because I took a lot of influences from composers like Stravinsky. Um, his harmonic language and his orchestration definitely influenced a lot of my music languages. I was once a very, very big fan of Bartok for years, for ages. And then I felt like my my music was getting too close to his music, so I stopped listening to him for a while, just on purpose. so I can get my own voices back. So that's something I try to do. I try not to listen to one kind of music style or one particular composer to try to avoid that happen again.
I certainly could see that. I've certainly had things leak out in my music's unconsciously, where it just happens to sound a lot more closely to somebody else's music than I intended to, but it's just somebody I listened to so much in the past that just sort of came out that way. I think that's something all of us composers face at one point in time or the other. It's just sort of fact of life of absorbing what is around you, you know.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite median that you like to compose for at this point?
Mm. Yes. So I had some experiences working with dancers and I really enjoyed it. Um, so music for choreography is something I'm really interested in. But in general, concert music wise, I think writing for the orchestra is my biggest passion since I was little, actually. I think I got into music because of orchestral music. Um, I have a fun story to tell about how I discovered orchestral music for the first time as a kid. So it was very different than the other kids' experiences. So I was born in this music family. My dad was a composer. Um, and there was one day I was very young. There was one day I was playing in the living room doing my own things. And then I heard this heavenly, gorgeous orchestral music coming out of my dad's office, his room. So I rushed to his room and asked what that was. And he told me it was the opening music to the notation software Sibelius. And it was
Yeah.
actually yes, it was one of the Sibelius symphony because they always put the Sibelius symphony for their opening music. Whenever the software updates, they upgrade the symphony as well. So I thought that was really funny. Um, but that was how I really got into orchestral music, and at the moment I was like, "Oh, yeah, whoever this person is writing for this software, I wanna be like him one day. If I ever wanna compose a piece of music, this is the kind of sound I wanna go for."
Right on. That is a unique story. I like that one. That is funny. So, Yanfan, you sometimes talk about how to build audiences for modern concert music, and you talk about something that's actually near and dear to my own heart, and that is sort of a multimedia experience. I am curious on how much of this external media type of concept, is within your music or in plans for some of your music.
Yeah. So I try to do more of that, but it's really hard to find people who are perfect and willing to team up with us as composers. Sometimes we live in our own bubbles. We don't get to meet all the other people in the other field. But this is something I'm very passionate about. Um, and I do believe having a external media can help connect the audience with the music piece itself. And also I am a very open-minded person. I like to work with others and I like to create projects that involves more than just me. Um, because I think human connections are very important in art making. We should never be isolated alone in our little desk and write all day. Um, so yeah, I have some pieces that uses media. I have this piece, for example, it was a commission by saxophonist Canis Ratnowski, um, for saxophone and piano. Um, and actually, originally, I didn't write the piece for media. I just wrote the music. And then later, after the premiere of the concert, one of his students approached to me and told me that he wants to play this piece. And then I started to explore different possibilities. So we talked about perhaps having visual arts paired with the music. Because the piece titled Turn Me Into Ocean, it's based on a original poem I wrote. It's very personal, surreal and abstract. So if I was thinking if we just have the program notes, it's sometimes very hard to relate. By the end of the poem, I mentioned all my limbs are melted away in the ocean, and I was turned into the ocean. Um, which I really would love to have a visual for that. I think that could help the audience understand the music and relate to the music and the poem much better. So we found this visual artist, which who was a friend of this saxophonist. So we worked together. We looked at some drafts. um, I gave some comments, feedbacks. I actually really, really loved the first draft. So we actually didn't do much revisions. We kept what they have. Um, it was basically this ocean scene, but everything was um done in a little bit more surreal way, and the ocean was kind of glittering a little bit. That was exactly what I had in my vision when I was writing the poem and the music. Um, so it just magically worked. Um, I would love to do something that's I this is my dream project. I like to work with a visual artist from the beginning. Um, we can exchange artworks and music and get to know each other, and then we can send each other sketches for a long period of time until we both feel very satisfied for this one thing or one theme we would love to do. um so that's something I would love to explore in the future.
It sounds To me, it sounds awesome and a lot of fun. I've been able to do some things like that, with
Mhm.
various artists and folks and other things, and, but maybe not as long term as you were, sort of led to. It's a little bit more, "Hey, I've got this. Oh, I wanna write some music to that. Okay, yeah, alright, let's go."
That is usually the case. But I do think I am constantly looking for a active collaboration with other artists and other art forms. Um, I do think a long-term exchange of ideas can help us build a relationship that's deeper, um,
Yeah.
and can help with the common artistic vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely can develop a better project that way for sure, if you with that ability. What projects are next for you? What do you have coming up?
Yes, so I've been working on a new orchestra piece. It's gonna be my first symphony. So before this, I was just writing smaller orchestral pieces, less than 15 minutes long. But this one, I started aiming really, really high. I'm really envisioning a full 40 to 15 minutes long symphony with 5 movements. And it's also going to be based on one of my original story, which I'm working on right now. I already kind of finished the first movement. Um, I can give you a brief overview. I don't want to give it all away, but it's about this outer space planet. There is a hotel in there. It's kind of like the hotel in John Wick movie. It's like a place for aliens and humans to get together peacefully. and it's like a space destination that's a representation of the friendship between aliens and humans.
Fun. You lot of space in that to explore.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I have some really fun ideas. I've been enjoying exploring and trying out new things in this piece.
What are these new things that you're experimenting with?
Yeah, so one sneak peek, I'm going to use a electric piano in this piece, in addition to a regular piano, just to give it a little bit more futuristic, but also it's not real futuristic. It's not like a sci-fi in 2024. I was thinking more like a sci-fi in the 80s or 90s, that kind of movie sound. Uh, that's why I think for the electric piano, I'm going to use a very, very ancient sound, very, very old 80s, cheesy sound, just to achieve that.
Well, Yanfan, it was so much fun having you come and talk with me today. It was a great to explore more of your music in depth with you, and to hear another composer who has ideas and similar things sort of helps to keep one who's in their little bubble feeling like they're not alone and other people are also writing and taking on some of these concepts. So that's always something I really enjoy when I talk with other composers. Thank you very much
Of
for being
course.
on the Come On.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you as well. It's very inspiring.